Hello! So today we're going to be looking at the FlightSim Studios Boeing 727 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've been studying this airplane now for about 24 hours, pulling apart the instructions that came with it and looking at other videos, which all kind of avoided doing all the things I was most interested in looking at. So I'm going to take you from cold and dark, and we're going to be the pilot, the co-pilot and the engineer. And we're going to work around the cockpit and get the entire plane ready for flight. So, I've written this all up as a checklist. There'll be a link in the notes of where you can get the checklist from. There's also a spreadsheet involved. Yes, it's going to be hard work. So, I'm not going to do the full flight today. We're going to take it out as far as getting off the runway and getting into the air. And then we'll look at navigation as an entire other video because it's too much to cover in one go. Right, first things first, if we go and jump inside the aeroplane. First of all, FlightSim Studios have done an amazing job on this. It's perhaps the best aircraft in the simulator now. I know that's a hell of a thing to say, but it really is that good. So, first thing I want to cover is the default views that come with the aeroplane aren't very good for walking around the cockpit setting things up. So I have programmed my own custom views using Control, Alt and the number keys. So if I walk you through them now, if you wanted to copy what I've done, I'm going to cover it now. So Alt and 1 gives me the pilot instrument panel. Alt and 2 gives me the central engine instruments. Alt and 3 gives me the co-pilot instrument panel. Alt and 4 gives me the flight management computer. Alt and 5 gives me the lower overhead panel. Alt and 6 gives me the upper overhead panel. Alt and 7 gives me the lower engineer panel. Alt and 8 gives me the upper engineer panel. Alt and 9 gives me the APU panel, and Alt and 0 gives me the pedestal with basically the navigation radios. Okay, so then I'm going to press F to come back into the cockpit. So, where do we get started with this aeroplane? First thing we're going to do is obviously make sure our controls are configured correctly. I know mine are, so it's fairly straightforward to configure it. You're just looking to make sure that your reversers work correctly with the throttles, and it will work all in one line. It's not like the PMDGs where you have to mess around. It's fairly straightforward in this aircraft. Okay, so first thing we're going to do in the cockpit is go and open the clipboard. So down at the side of the pilot's legs, there is a clipboard that you can click on and it will open up. And you can either set the cones or remove them, or set the engine covers. If we go outside and have a look at those, you'll see the engine covers have been covered up. We got the chocks in place, and we should have some cones somewhere, maybe, or maybe not. Anyway, we can remove those from in here. Okay, and there's various other things you can do. So the doors are closed by default, and you can obviously open them if you're playing with passenger loading and things like that. So that's all I wanted to do, was just get rid of the cones, chocks and engine covers. Okay, so when we can get rid of the clipboard by clicking on its binding, and then to the left of the pilot on this little shelf is a mobile phone, and it's got automatic monitoring options in it. Obviously you can see also you can automate the procedure through the flow. We're going to do most of this left hand side, and some of the right hand side completely manually today. So I'm going to show you how to set up all of these things that will then be monitored automatically. So it's important then that you put all of these on for automatic monitoring. So the automatic engineer won't kick in until the airplane's actually running, and then he'll start helping. So where do we start? We go overhead. So Alt and 8 takes us to the engineer section, and he's going to go and turn the battery on and cover the battery switch. Then we're going to go over to the pilot, and they're going to go and make sure that the navigation light is on to allow the ground crew to know that we're on in the aircraft and we're starting to get it ready. So then we're going to press Alt and 9, go over to the auxiliary power unit control alongside the engineer, and he's going to flick the switch up to start, and it will stick there for a second and then fall down. Let's make sure you can hear this. I wonder if I just go and open the volume mixer. Yeah, FlightSim showing you 100%. So you can see the exhaust temperature of the APU will climb, and you can see there the AC amperes has gone up as well. So we just wait for that to happen. So then we press Alt and 8, so we go overhead with the engineer station again, and we're going to rotate the essential power knob to APU. Okay, so we're doing this before we actually switch power. So then we go back over to here and we can close the generator circuit. So at the moment it's not connected. So the APU is running but it's not actually connected to anything. So closing that circuit gives power to the airplane all of a sudden. Okay, so if you go and look back overhead, that's what this was doing. This is choosing for the airplane where the power is coming from. Okay, so next we press Alt and 5. So this is the lower part of the overhead panel, and we're going to go and turn the emergency lights to armed and cover the switch. And then we're going to go down to this amazing flight management computer. So we need to align the guidance system. So we switch it to align on this knob at the top, and we change the data selector switch to the POS setting, and it gives us the opportunity to program in our longitude and latitude. So what do we put in here? What I'm going to do, and I'm going to include this with the procedure I've written up. There's a spreadsheet involved. We're going to zoom in on little nav map to our position, and we are going to right click on it and go to more, and we are going to copy our position to the clipboard. Then we're going to go to the spreadsheet I've written, and I'm going to paste it in, and it's going to calculate me in decimal minutes the codes I need to type in to the flight management computer. So I want 231473. 231473, which gives me north 3147.3. And I press insert. And then for the longitude, I want 61043. 61043. So that's really told it east 104.3. And then I press insert. Having done that, after a few seconds, because this is in position mode, the battery light will come on. Sorry, this battery light will come on here. So give it a few seconds and it will happen. You can hear things happening in the background. Please work. There it goes. The battery light has come on. Then it will go off, and then the navigation ready light will come on after a few more seconds. So we just have to sit here and wait for it. There we go. So the back light has gone out, and then we're waiting for the ready nav light to come and switch on green. It'll be bright green. It basically means the navigation system is then ready for us. Okay, there we go. So now we can switch over to nav, and having done that, you will now notice the attitude indicators have rolled up the right way on both sides of the cockpit. So where they had flags on them before, they've gone and they've actually kicked in. Okay. So having done that, we can get on with the rest of pre-flight. So we're going to go over to the engineer panel, and we're going to go and turn on all the radios throughout the airplane. We're now going to go further overhead, and we're going to go and turn on the galley power. And then we're going to go to the pressurization control panel, which is down here. And we don't actually need to do much with this, not for today's purposes, because I'm not actually going to fly all the way out to the altitude we're talking about anyway. But this is where you could go and set your cruise altitude. Okay, so if you're on a very hot day, you can go and turn the Gasper fan on, and it will help cool the systems while you're sat on the ground doing things. And then we can press Alt and 7 to come lower down. We can go and turn the oil cooler CSD to normal. Then we're going to press Alt and 6 to go to the overhead panel again, and we're going to go and turn the window heats on. Then we're going to press Alt and 5 to come further down, and we're going to go and put the probe heaters on. Then we're going to go over to the primary flight instruments. We're going to press B to calibrate the altimeter. We're going to uncage the backup attitude indicator by pushing the knob in and holding it in for a few seconds and just waiting for it to roll up the right way, and then let go. We're going to go to the altitude pre-selector, and we can tell it the target for our initial climb. So if we said, say, 20,000 feet, just for our example, we're not actually going to be doing the flying, remember, but that's where you would do that. We can also go and set the indicated airspeed bug. So you can see if you roll this round, it comes out from behind the markers there. So if we go to, say, 100 and, or no, this would be for our climb speed. So if we said 200, that would be fine for an initial climb speed. Okay, so then we can go Alt and 0, and we can program any nav radios that we want for our initial departure. So in our case, we might want to be looking at setting the nav radio out to our first waypoint, which is Pole Hill 11210. So you'll be looking at the nav radio, nav 1, 112, what was it? 11210. So you would set the... You can do this either side, by the way, if you look at this carefully. So you can choose which one you're using, or you can just, you can dial in either. There's no transfer as such. Yeah, you're just using one frequency or the other. Okay, so at this point, we could push back if we wanted to before we start the engines. We're going to sit here because we're just on the stand. We're not going to bother pushing back. We're going to go and start the engines. So Alt and 5 takes us overhead. We go and put the beacon lights on. So we can see that outside. If we go and jump outside, you can see the beacon is now rotating underneath the aeroplane. It really is amazing, this aeroplane. So you can hear as well, there's the exhaust port there for the APU, because obviously the APU is not up here in the 727, it's in the wing. Okay, so back in the aeroplane, Alt and 8 takes us over to the engineering panel. We're going to go and look at the engine bleeds, so we're going to turn them all to open, all the way across, and having done that you'll see the PSI shoots up. So the APU is now providing the compressed air. Make sure that the packs are off. So now engine start. So this is actually quite straightforward. So we go to Alt and 6. Takes us overhead between the pilots. We're going to start engine number 3 first, sorry. So we uncover the starter for engine number 3 and we roll it down to ground. Then we come down into the cockpit and you'll see N2 is increasing for engine number 3. When it gets past 20%, much like the later Boeings, we can advance the start lever. So we're just waiting for that to go past 20%, and there it goes. So advance the start lever, engine number 3. Notice the engines are very quiet from the cockpit. It's because they're at the far end of the aeroplane. Okay, so we wait for that to happen. If we go back and look up in the cockpit, the switch goes back to off all on its own when it's ready to go for the next one. So then we go for engine number 1 next. So it's 312 is the start sequence, if you're wondering. There's all sorts of documentation about starting only a couple of the engines and taxiing on 2 of them, and all sorts of strategies around doing that. Taxiing on 1 engine to save fuel, I guess. So we're coming up past 20% on the N2 for engine number 1, so we can advance the starter lever for engine number 1. And you'll see it accelerates, and you'll see obviously fuel flow, temperature, the turbofan RPM is going up. Okay, so back overhead, the switch goes back to off when it's ready. We can open engine number 2 now, roll it down to ground, come back down, monitor the N2 for engine number 2, wait for it to get to 20% again. So this is the straightforward part. Okay, so it's just approaching 20%, and we can advance the starter lever for engine number 2, and it comes up to speed. Okay, so let's go and look overhead, make sure that's gone back to the off position so we can close. Oh, we did that a little bit early, but it should be okay. You can usually get away with it, we'll just watch it. Yeah, it's okay, look. So the RPM is still coming up. Right, next thing to do is the generators. So what we do is we rotate the AC meters selector down here to each generator in turn, and we have to synchronize them. So the way we do that, so we go to Gen 1 for example, whoops, Gen 1, and it's flashing. What you need to do is rotate the increase knob over here slowly until the flashing gets slower or comes to a stop. So I'm going to roll it left on purpose to show you. It will get faster. So I'm going to roll it right, and it's gone out. So that's good. Generator 2, same deal again. So you roll it until it stops flashing. So generator 3, it's getting faster that way, so I need to go left. And there we go, it stopped flashing. Once you have done that, you can close the generators or close the circuits. Yeah, so on the generator switches you flick each one up, and that means they're now generating electricity. We can now change the essential power away from the APU to one of the generators. So we're going to go to generator 3, or that's what it says in the documentation to do. So you heard that clunk there in the cockpit, that was the relay of the generator 3 now providing electricity to the aircraft. Okay, so back up here. Now I'm just following the instructions at this point. This is still all very kind of murky to me about what's actually going on with this. We can go and obviously get rid of the engine 2 APU bleed and the APU bleed. So that was the APU bleed switch, by the way. Then back on the APU panel, we can go and switch it off. So we can just roll that switch down and the knob will go out. Obviously we've changed the essential power selection over to the generators from the engines now, so we don't have a problem with doing that. So back on the engineer panel, we can go and sort out the hydraulics now. So we've got 2 hydraulic systems down here. We're going to do system B first. And turn both on, and then turn system A on. Note that I am not doing a lot of the checks that are in the full procedure, so this is very much just functionally what you need to do. So next is trim, and this is going to get fun. So we are going to go and open the clipboard. We're going to open the aircraft tab. So, sorry, not aircraft, the takeoff tab. And it will show us our trim numbers based on the current configuration of the airplane. So I'm going to set the trim to 6. So to do that is similar to the 737. There's a little needle there, and we just rotate this until the needle moves to 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So back in looking at that clipboard, you'll notice there's some things here. We can set the EPR and the trim. We can do it directly from here. Yeah. And we can also set the V speeds. So if you watch the markers here, if I press them, the markers are all moved. So we could do that from here as well, and it would have done it for us. Okay, so this was all based on us using flaps 15, these calculations. So we'll go and set the flaps. So if we go and look over here at the flap lever, we're going to make sure we move the flaps to 15 degrees. If you look outside now, we'll see the flaps animate. Like I said, this is perhaps one of the best aircraft I've ever seen in the simulator. It really is something else. You can also see the flaps travelling within the cockpit. I'm just trying to remind myself where the flap... Here we go, they're over here, look. So you get the commanded and the position of the flaps. Okay. What is next? We did the hydraulic pumps, we've done the flaps. We're getting ready to taxi. So, Alt 5, go and put the taxi light 2 on. And we'll go and put the clipboard away. And come off the parking brake. We can cancel that warning from the autopilot. It's fine, it's just telling us it's not engaged. Should we put the head tracking on? So one thing I don't like is the default view that they've given us is slightly panoramic, and I would rather not have that. So a couple of clicks forwards on the mouse will put you in a better place. There we go. So something else we might want to do while we're taxiing out is go and set the heading bug and the compass. I'll do that once we're sat on the runway. So we're not going to hold anybody up. I've purposely got the simulator so there's nobody around. Also, while we're taxiing, we can go and put the anti-skid to on. And we can go and set the auto brakes to rejected takeoff overhead. So just taxiing down to the runway, won't take long, hopefully. So the plane is essentially ready to go now. So like I said, I'm not going to get involved in flying it via the navigation computer today because that's a whole nother subject. But I am going to show you how to at least do basic heading and climb control. So we said 20,000 feet. So we can go and put the altitude hold on. We can go and put the heading mode on for the flight directors. So you can see the flight directors have come alive. So let's just go and check where we are, what direction the runway will be for takeoff. So it's going to be 146 degrees. So while we are taxiing down, we'll go and move the HSI bug. Slow down. So we've got some hope of making the turn. Okay, I'm just going to put the parking brake on for a moment because I want to show you a couple of things. So we can line this trim up in the middle. So the heading bug, also the flight director is on heading mode. Yeah, so you will notice now if we move the heading bug, you'll see the flight director needles move as well. Yeah, so it says we're pretty much on the course with that. Obviously we haven't tuned that nav radio, or we have tuned it in, but we won't pick it up on the ground and it's a long way away anyway. So we can set the course direction to the same direction we're going as well. The important ones to look at are down here. So this is the autopilot master control. So you've got the engaged switch. You've also got heading select mode and altitude select mode. And we can arm them, but you can only do it once the autopilot is running. Yeah, and you've also got the control over the climb rate. So you've got either pitch hold, vertical speed, or IAS hold. So I'm going to go for indicated airspeed, and again look, I can't change it without it engaged. So the trick to this is you engage the autopilot and it goes into roll and pitch hold mode, and then you can select your major mode that you want to use. Okay, so off the throttles, off the parking brakes. If you get any warnings at this point, once you go past 50% throttle, it will be because you've got a configuration error. So we're full throttle, and we're watching the indicated airspeed. We'll get call-outs from the co-pilot. There you go. We're rotating. Being careful not to rotate too fast. And gear up. So I'm trimming there just to get the aircraft stable in the climb, so flaps can begin to come up. And we can, with a little bit of luck, I'm just trying to trim it before I do this, we can engage the autopilot and we can start to play games with engage heading select, engage altitude select. We can go to indicated airspeed hold mode. And we're off. Yeah, so the aircraft has gone a bit beyond the target there on the airspeed, so we'll just move that up to match it. So it's climbing out as we need to. So, something you'll need to be aware of that lots of other people have seen, and I've been scratching my head looking at this a lot with the airplane. On the engineer section, you will see the temperature will drop to 0 here. I'm not entirely sure if it should or why it does. I think it's outside air temperature, to be honest. So obviously as you get higher, this temperature will drop away. The other thing is, there's an altitude horn cutout. When you get to 10,000 feet, the horn will go off. And it seems to be, if you climb too steeply, the horn will also go off. So we're just coming up through 6,000 feet, so we need to change our barometric pressure in here. So where is it? 2992 we want, don't we? 2992, and same on the co-pilot side. We never did the lights, did we? Sorry, I was so busy talking. We should have had the landing lights on. Apologies to all the real pilots out there. I just took off without the strobes or the landing lights. I was so busy showing you the functional side of, getting it ready. I forgot the procedural side. So we're coming up through 8,500 feet. Uh, 9,000 feet. So I just want you to hear this alarm. Obviously we're just on heading following mode at the moment. So just to prove that, if we go and change the heading bug, you'll see the aeroplane change direction, so we'll turn south. So we've just gone through 10,000 feet. There we go, we've just heard it. That's the altitude horn. It goes off when you pass through 10,000 feet. Also, I think it's related to climbing too fast. So if we go to vertical speed mode now, and we take control of that, so we'll roll it out a bit and take some of that vertical speed out of the aeroplane. We'll have to be mindful of speed though. But we're fine now because we're above 10,000 feet, so the 250 knot speed limit doesn't apply to us anymore. So we're just going to reduce the climb rate. Which will also give us a chance to accelerate. So you can see the plane's accelerating out through 250 knots. So you've got the major modes of the autopilot are reflected up here. So there we go, we've got another warning. So I'm still learning about what causes this to trip, but you can just cancel the horn whenever it does it. I do wonder if there might be a bug or two in the pressurization system that causes the horn to come on. It took me a while to figure out how to control it. So yes, obviously then you can start playing VOR navigation games with your aeroplane from here on in. But again, massive subject for another video about the GPS and the navigation modes. Okay, so that was just the basics to get the airplane up and into the air. So obviously the next big video on this airplane is going to be navigation. I'll see you again soon. Take care.